Do you know how much a commercial fisherman makes in a day out on water that genuinely tries to kill him? You've heard the stories. Everyone has. Alaska, crab season, $50,000 in a few weeks. Young guys flying north with empty pockets and coming home rich. Some of that is completely true. And some of it is the most dangerous half-truth in America. Because a fisherman doesn't earn a wage. He earns a share. And a share can be zero. Today, real crew share math, real season numbers, and the reason this job pays like a lottery ticket. Plus one statistic that puts every dollar in perspective, a fatality rate many times the national average. Let's get into it. Before we count anybody's money, hit subscribe and help me out. It's free, and it's the only thing I'll ever ask you for. 4 a.m., a harbor in Alaska. Engines coughing awake. Boats pulling out into black water under a sky full of stars. On board, 5 men who have no idea what today pays. Not a guess. Not an estimate. They genuinely don't know. Here's the thing nobody tells you. Commercial fishing has no hourly rate, no salary, no overtime, no minimum. Every crew member is paid a percentage of what the boat catches. It's called a crew share, and it changes everything. You're not an employee. You're a partner in a very wet gamble. Catch a fortune, everyone eats. Catch nothing, everyone still worked. For nothing. No other job in America works quite like this. Quick rewind because this pay system is ancient. Long before payroll existed, crews split the catch. Whaling ships ran the exact same model centuries ago. Every sailor signed on for a fraction of the voyage's value. They called it a lay. Same idea, same gamble. A voyage could last 3 years and pay almost nothing. Or it could set a young man up for life. 200 years later, the structure hasn't changed at all. Only the boats got faster and the fish got smaller. Which tells you something about why it survives. When the outcome is uncertain, everyone shares the risk. So let's do the math the way the boat does it. A boat lands its catch and sells it at the dock. Say the season's total, $200,000 of salmon. That's gross. Now watch the deductions. First, fuel. Boats burn it constantly, and it isn't cheap. Then food for the crew. Then bait. Then ice. Then gear repairs, because the ocean destroys everything. What's left after expenses gets split, and the captain takes the biggest slice, typically 35 to 40%. Because usually, the captain owns the boat. And the boat costs more than most houses. The rest gets divided among the deckhands. On a 5-man salmon boat, that's roughly 10% each. 10% of $200,000 is $20,000. Then the deckhands' own expenses come out about $3,000, leaving roughly $17,000 for the season. For 3 months of work. That's real money. Now here's the part that flips it. Those 3 months, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. Run the hourly math on that, and it isn't glamorous at all. $17,000 across roughly 1,500 hours comes out around $11 an hour, standing in freezing water, on a moving deck, in the dark. That's the average boat in an average year. But nobody flies to Alaska for the average boat. They fly for the Highliner. That's the industry word for a boat that consistently outfishes everyone. Better captain, better spots, better crew, better luck. And the numbers on those boats are genuinely enormous. Salmon deckhands on good boats report 10 to 50,000 in a 3-month season. Cod, halibut, and pollock deckhands report up to 10,000 a month. Some sources cite up to 20,000 on the very best boats. And then there's crab, the one everybody's heard of. Crab deckhands have reported up to $15,000 a month. Some sources cite up to $30,000 in peak conditions. Historically, deckhands have earned up to $100,000 across a 6-month snow crab season. $100,000. 6 months. No degree required. That is the story that fills airplanes to Anchorage every spring. And now, the fine print, nobody prints. First, the word up to is doing enormous work. Payscale data puts the average deckhand salary at about $22,500. Alaska's own labor department has cited around $28,000. So the honest range for most deckhands, 20 to 50,000 for a season on decent boats, with experienced hands on high-producing boats reaching 70. Great money, just not the money on the poster. Second, you don't get paid until the season ends. Months of work. One settlement at the end. If the season fails, that envelope is thin. Third, and this is the one that shocks people, a bad season can leave a deckhand owing money. Because expenses come off the top even if the catch was small. Fuel doesn't care whether the fish showed up. Veterans call it a broker trip. Everyone has had one. Okay, let's live one full day at sea. Meet Cody, 24. Third salmon season. Bristol Bay. 3:30 a.m., the alarm, if he even slept. Bunks are stacked 4 to a room. Privacy is a memory. 4 a.m., coffee, engine check, out of the harbor. 5 a.m., the first set. The net goes out. And now the job is exactly two things: wait and haul. Waiting is deceptively hard. Hauling is brutally simple. The net comes in heavy, fish by the hundreds. Pick, sort, toss, stack, reset, do it again. 8 a.m., they've been working 3 hours. 12 to go. 9:30, a wave breaks over the rail. Everyone is soaked. Everyone keeps working. Because the fish don't wait for anyone to dry off. Noon, lunch eaten standing up, one hand still working. 2 p.m., a line jams in the hydraulics. And this is where the job becomes genuinely dangerous. Ropes under tension. Heavy gear swinging. A wet steel deck. Commercial fishing has one of the highest fatality rates in America, many times the national average for all workers. Falls overboard. Vessel disasters. Machinery injuries. Cold water gives a person minutes, not hours, which is why survival suits sit ready on every boat, and why every crew practices getting into them fast. 6 p.m., the last set of the day. Arms burning. 9 p.m., the deck gets washed, gear gets stowed. 10 p.m., dinner, then sleep, then it starts again. How much did Cody earn today? Nobody knows yet. That's the strangest part of this job. He'll find out in 8 weeks when the season closes. Now let's zoom out, because there's a whole ladder here. At the bottom, the greenhorn. First season, smallest share, worst jobs. Some greenhorns get half a normal crew share, because they slow the boat down while they learn. Above him, the experienced deckhand. Full share. Trusted, fast hands. Knows the gear. Above him, the engineer or the mate. Extra skills earn extra percentage points. And at the top, the captain. Skippers commonly earn $60,000 to over $200,000 a year. And in the biggest crab fisheries, some have earned over $300,000 in a single season. One well-known Alaskan captain publicly claimed grossing over $2 million from just 11 days of fishing. Gross, not profit. But still 11 days. Which raises the obvious question: why doesn't every deckhand just become a captain? Because of the thing that separates the two: the boat and the permit. A commercial fishing vessel costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Serious crab boats cost millions. And in many fisheries, you also need a limited entry permit. Governments cap how many boats can fish a species to keep fish populations from collapsing, which means permits are traded like assets. And in strong fisheries, they can cost as much as a house. Sound familiar? The hot dog cart's permit worked exactly the same way. Scarcity turns paperwork into property. Every single time. So most deckhands stay deckhands, and the ones who cross over usually inherit the boat or spend 20 years buying their way in. Now the part that makes this job unlike any other. The fish decide everything. And the fish don't negotiate. Some years, salmon return in enormous numbers. Boats fill in days. Prices might drop from oversupply. Other years, the run simply doesn't show up. Whole fisheries have closed entirely for a season. When that happens, an entire town's income disappears. Because these are not just jobs, they're whole communities. And the price at the dock swings too. Buyers set a per-pound price that can change week to week. Global markets, farmed competition, currency swings, demand shifts. A fisherman can catch a record season and still earn less than the year before. Because he controls the catch. never the price. Which brings us to the other fishermen, the ones near you. Because not all commercial fishing happens in Alaska. Gulf shrimpers, New England lobstermen, Chesapeake crabbers, small operations, often family-owned, generation after generation. Their numbers look different, steadier, smaller, closer to home. Nationally, deckhand pay averages around $31,000 a year, which is a very different story from the Alaska headlines. Both are true, they're just different oceans. And then there's charter fishing, a completely different business. Charter captains sell an experience, not a catch. Half-day trips, tips, photos, coolers of fillets for the guests. Steadier income. Friendlier hours. Far less money per fish. Some fishermen do both commercial in season, charter between. Now, what does a fisherman actually spend? Deckhands buy their own gear. Rain bibs, boots, gloves, knives, foul weather jackets, several $100s before the first day, plus the state fishing license, plus getting there. Flights to remote Alaskan towns aren't cheap. Some boats reimburse travel after enough successful trips, but room and board on the boat? Usually free. Which is the quiet advantage nobody mentions. While you're at sea, you spend almost nothing. No rent, no restaurants, no shopping, nowhere to go. 3 months of income with 3 months of zero expenses is why fishing money feels bigger than the hourly math suggests. That's the real trick of seasonal work. Thinking about going north yourself? Here's how people actually get hired. Not online, not through applications, on the dock. You fly to a fishing town and you walk the harbor. You ask every captain. Then you ask them again tomorrow. One young fisherman described being told no for 3 straight weeks before one of the best boats in the harbor finally hired him. That's how this industry works. Presence beats resumes. Captains hire people they've seen show up repeatedly, and they're looking for one trait above all others: someone who won't quit halfway through a season. Because at sea, quitting isn't really an option. So, how do the winners win out there? Rule 1. Pick the boat, not the fishery. A great captain in a mediocre season beats the reverse every time. Rule 2. Ask about the share before you sign on. Percentage, deductions, and who pays for what. Vague answers on a dock become empty envelopes in October. Rule 3. Come back. Loyalty is currency here. Returning crew get bigger shares and better boats. Rule 4. Learn a second skill: engines, hydraulics, welding. A deckhand who fixes the boat becomes irreplaceable. And Rule 5. Bank it like it's your only season. Because the ocean promises nothing about next year. So the final math. The number you clicked for. A greenhorn's first salmon season, 5 to 15,000. A solid deckhand season, 20 to 50,000. An experienced hand on a high-producing boat up to 70. Crab and cod months can run 10 to 15,000 each. Captains, 60,000 to over 200,000 a year. And the very top crab skippers have cleared 300,000 in a season. But the national average deckhand still sits around 31,000, which tells you exactly what kind of job this is. Not a salary. A wager with weather attached. So the stories from the beginning, were they true? Yes, on the right boat, in the right season, with the right captain. And no for the crew that fished the same water and found nothing. Same ocean, same hours, same freezing hands. 2 completely different envelopes at the end. That's the deal every fisherman signs without signing anything. So the next time you're standing in a grocery store looking at salmon under glass, wondering about the price, remember what's actually in that price. 16-hour days on a deck that never stops moving, freezing water, jammed winches, and no idea what the paycheck is. Months away from home for 1 envelope in the fall. And a job that pays like a lottery ticket for people who can't afford to lose. Nobody catches a fish for a wage. They catch it for a share of whatever the ocean decides. If this changed how you see that seafood counter, subscribe. Because next time, we're counting somebody else's catch.